Vice Chair. Yeah. Good evening. I would like to call the Finance and Audit Committee regular meeting to order. Let's see. Can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Director Weber.
Aye.
Director
Here.
Stark.
Here.
Director Clark.
Here.
Thank you. For the record, Director Jones is absent this evening. Thank you.
Okay. An opportunity for public comment. Are there any public comment here or online?
I have no speaker cards and currently no attendees online. Thank you. No public comments.
Very good. We'll move on to the consent items. Questions?
I have none. I will move it. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Director Stark.
Aye.
Director Clark. Thank you. Motion passes. Consent calendar is adopted.
Very good. And then we will move on to presentation items. The bi-monthly fiscal report through August 31st, 2025. Mr. David O'Toole.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Chief House colleagues, and members of the public. Tonight's bi-monthly fiscal report covers just the first 2 months of the fiscal year, so July and August. This report is presented mainly to help you monitor the fiscal health of the district and identify deviations from the most recent budget plan, the final budget, as well as the prior year, fiscal year 24-25. Okay. So there aren't many surprises in this report, but this one will look like a surprise and I'll explain. So this is your total cash balance trends. The red line is this year and the green line is prior year, 24-25. Trajectory after 2 months follows a historical pattern. So cash was positive 167.9 million. So that's the surprise. The reason for that is that's measure O. For purposes of cash balance reporting, the county records it that way. So we show it on this report. And what I can say about that is as we spend on measure O, you'll see that total come down too. So that is after 2 months, that's where we said very, very, very positive for cash balance trends because of that measure O.
Wondering about that.
Yeah. And then next slide. There we go. Okay. So switching to this chart shows the general fund revenue collections through August. And the red line again is this year, green line is prior year. The blue line is the final budget estimate, which all the way to the right, you can see total general fund revenues anticipated for the year, 341 million, almost 348. As indicated by the arrows, actual revenues through August were nearly 13.8 million, about 3.8 million more than they were prior year. So it's really early in the year. It's hard to really say much about revenues right now, but they're more than last year. The next slide is EMS revenues, so a component of the revenues. This shows EMS transport revenues. After 2 months, medic or EMS revenues were about 10 million. Compared to last year, that's $1.9 million higher. We're also tracking ahead of budget too. You can see the blue line for budget there. Let's see, we're just a couple $100,000 over on the blue line, is over the budget too. So that is the medic revenue update. Moving on to PPGMT. So these next 2 slides address the public provider ground emergency medical transport program. The first slide is a quarterly look at the first 30 months of the program. And it is what I'm going to be showing from here on out is rather than is showing each of those 30 lines and delving into there, I'm doing a little more consolidation to make it a little easier to understand. And as you can see, well, first, I guess to orient to the slide. So that's the 30 months there from inception through fiscal year 24-25. So the end of last fiscal year. And then the red bars are how much we collected based on the estimated revenues within that quarter. So they're upwards of 87% there or so. In one quarter, we're a little over 100%. So we've collected more than what we thought we would in that Q2 of 2024. At the bottom there is kind of a tracker for where we are in total. So based on what we expected to receive, we still expect to receive about 3.4 million across that time period. We've already received 50.7. So you get a sense that we've collected a lot of what we expected out of PPGMT for the first 30 months of the program. And the next slide is bringing us up to date. So this is this fiscal year, just showing the first 2 months again. And the gray column shows what was expected, so about 2.2 million, if you can read that sideways there. And the red columns are the actual amounts collected, some of which are attributable to transports in prior years, but we're showing in a cash basis, this is how much was collected those months. So as noted on the slide, anticipated collections were 4.2 million through August, and we actually collected a little more. We collected 4.5 million, so a little bit ahead this year on PPGMT. Next slide takes us from revenues to expenditures, still within the general fund. Again, the blue line is the budget plan. The prior year is shown in the green line, and then actuals are in red, the red line at the bottom left there. After 2 months, actual general fund expenditures are 63.9 million, which is actually $11 million less than what we have in the budget for this year. So spending is starting a little slower than what we anticipated in the budget plan. It's also $1.6 million less than last year. And so generally we're off to a slow start, relatively slow start in expenditures, but plenty of time to make that up. The next slide, sorry. Yeah, don't lose hope.
Try to keep it down.
Yeah. The next component of expenditures on general fund expenditures is labor costs. And here we're tracking pretty closely to what we thought. So as you can see on the slide, actual 25-26 costs, the red line and the budget, the blue line and prior costs are pretty close together. Actual labor costs were $2 million more than last year. And then labor costs through August were about $200,000 higher than budget. So almost the same, but just slightly over on what we had on budget on labor. So in terms of that expenditure increase, it's mostly happening on the service and supply side, not the labor side. We're tracking right where we thought we would be with labor. So that is your look at general fund expenditures. Going to move over to general fund reserve balances. For the first 2 months of the fiscal year, we're tracking pretty close to last year. We're in our first, we call the dry period dip when we start to borrow from the county for these reserve balances. Borrowing a little less, 9.1 million versus 12.1 million last year. The purple dotted line across near the top there, that's about where your 15% reserve would be. Just for reference, you can see how we are in relation to it. That's about 45 million is the purple line. So that's reserve balances. This next slide has a couple things on it, but it's the intent is to show you our trust investments in the California Employers Retirement Benefit, or CERP fund, and the California Employers Public Pension Trust Fund, or CEPT fund. And I was looking at the chart at the top there. The CERT is made up of contributions over the life of participation in the fund, and investment earnings balances in the CERP trust may only be used to pay OPEB liabilities. So it's just for OPEB there. As shown since inception back in 2013, district has contributed nearly 64.7 million of the 105.6 million in CERP value. So you can see that off to the right, then the fund is doing very well, like many investments right now. That's for the CERP. And then the table below, we haven't been investing that very long, so it's not a very attractive table, just kind of giving you the numbers. Let's see, the CEP shown below was established just last year with initial deposit of $1 million is being made. And the investment has earned about $17,800 in the first 2 months of this fiscal year. That's about a 14% annualized return. So again, pretty strong following good market conditions right now. So that's your CERP and CEPT, the pension and OPEB trust funds update. For this next part, I'm going to have Ron Empedrad come up and give you the fraud risk assessment.
Good evening, directors. Good evening also Chief House. Ron Empedrad, Controller for the district. Back in January 2024, I presented to this committee the results of a fraud risk assessment study. The purpose of that study is to look at or identify fraud risks that might affect the district, and also propose recommendations to reduce those fraud risks. As part of that study, I looked at 12 functional areas of the district. I looked at management and key employee assessment, scheming and cash larceny, payroll fraud, purchasing and billing, expense reimbursement, conflicts of interest, corruption, theft of proprietary and sensitive information, physical controls, check tampering, and finally, fraudulent financial reports. As a result of that study, I came up with 22 recommendations, and 22 findings with corresponding recommendations. Throughout 2024 and 2025, we worked on those findings and we completed 14 recommendations, which resulted to improvements on personnel practices, purchasing and disbursement, check receipts, IT security, and documentation. Looks like this slide might not be updated to my to what I've submitted. But in any case, so there's 14 recommendations that we completed. One recommendation was withdrawn because of legal obstacles. And finally, we're left with 7 recommendations in process. So 3 of those recommendations, they're in process because of certain factors that I did not consider in my initial study. 3 of those recommendations relate to code of conduct, and that requires a meet and confer with the union, and that may take time. 2 of those recommendations, that is adopting anti-fraud policies and trend analysis, that also requires considerable investment of time. There's also a recommendation regarding multi-factor authentication for our credit card portal that requires reliance with our banking partner, Wells Fargo, which I'm told they're working on it. And the last one, disaster recovery site, that will require some funds to complete. In the past, I've always been doing quarterly updates with this committee. We're going to wrap up that quarterly update and proceed with informing the committee on as need to know basis, meaning every time we complete one recommendation, we would then report to this committee as we complete them. Rest assured that we will be working on these recommendations, just that it might take a few months to complete them, or it might take a year or 2. And that completes my portion of the report, unless the board or the committee has any questions.
Christian?
I was a little curious about the recommendation that was withdrawn. Are the legal obstacles too numerous to talk about right here?
From what I understand,
Examples.
Yeah, from what I understand, California law requires that the district provide a way of paying our employees either via cash or via check, and using pay cards will not qualify as will not fulfill those requirements. So it's either we do ACH, pay via check, ACH, and those, or pay cards. You cannot impose on the employee, or we cannot force them to accept pay cards. So as of now, we do have a couple of employees who elected not to take ACH or check, or they just wanted checks. And checks, as you know, there's certain risk involved in checks. They can get stolen, and all other risks. So as of now, there might be obstacles in forcing pay cards to these employees. That's why we're withdrawing them.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Oh, I jumped ahead. There we go. Okay. Real quick, the takeaways from this presentation are, again, cash balance surged due to an addition of 159 million in measurable bond proceeds. EMS revenues were higher by 2 million after 2 months of the fiscal year, but it's too early to say there's really a trend there. Approximately 93% of anticipated revenues for the first 30 months of PPGMT have been collected So that is the average of all those columns that we looked at. And we're on track a little bit ahead for 25 to 26 PPGMT collections. General fund expenditures, about $1.5 million lower than prior year. And as Ron just shared, majority of deficiencies identified in internal fraud risk assessment have been completed, and updates will be provided as additional items are completed. So that concludes my presentation item, and I welcome your questions.
Questions, gentlemen?
Oh, I have some. So where does this 3.5 million go? Now that we've saved this or not spent this,
Hmm.
does it go back in the general? Do we put it in the reserves? Where does that go?
The 3.5
Well, you're
million,
talking where EMS were 2 million higher and general fund expenditure were 150.
oh,
Oh, sorry, never mind. We're deficit 500,000, my mistake. I was the other way around. And reading through the rest of your document, there is a section in there that shows that we've saved $4 million. Am I incorrect with that, or are you familiar with what I'm talking about there?
I'd have to,
It's deep,
I have it
deep in
here.
this document. Wait, and I can touch base with you later because we're
Sure.
going to bump up against time, but I just noticed that there was a very large number in savings, and
that might have been the end of the year, end of year savings. Is that what
Yes.
we're looking at?
yes.
Yeah. Yes, there was, we recognize a share of that in the final budget. And then the audit is being completed right now. And once audit is completed, we'll know what all of it is.
So
So-
the final, and then as you stated before, the final or the adjusted budget afterwards will reflect that monies.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
good.
So what you see there is
Yeah.
what will align with what the auditors report to us and what we include in mid-year.
Makes total sense. Thank you.
And would that money, if there was money left over, be rolled into the general fund for the following year, this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That being the case, I believe that's all of our presentation items. Our next meeting is January 22nd. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.